Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So as you can tell, today's story is going to be another true crime and makeup get ready with me type story. This story is, again, very personal to me, and honestly this is like one of the most interesting cases I've ever read because of the aftermath of it. It was a very big case and it caused a lot of controversy. So without further ado, we're just gonna go ahead and get to it. And do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching if you are new, and if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. Let's just go ahead and get right on into this very wild story. Okay, today's story is a wild one. It's very wild, but it has a happy ending. So okay, so I've already done my eyebrows and I've primed my eyes, and we're just gonna get into today's story because again, it's very wild. I cannot stress how wild this story is. Like, this shit is insane. It's crazy. Unfortunately, I have somewhere to be, so I will be listing all of the products that I use down below in the description box, because I don't think that I'm gonna have time at the end of the video to go through everything. But if I do, then we'll do that. But as of right now, I probably don't. Jeffrey Paul Doucette was born February 3rd, 1959 in Port Arthur, Texas. So he's an Aquarius, and yeah, Aquarius, claim your man. Not much is known about his childhood aside from the fact that he grew up poor and he was one of 6 children. I have no information on his upbringing, no information on any of his siblings, his parents, anything like that. It's pretty much, I mean, after you find out everything that this man did, you will understand why nobody wanted to claim knowing this man. It's although not much is known about his childhood, it has been said that he was molested. Shit, that scared me. Terribly sorry about that. Although not much is known about his childhood, it was said by him, I'm not sure how much truth it is to it, but it's alleged that he was molested during his childhood, but we'll probably never know. There's no record of it. There's no proof that it actually happened. So that's just one of those things that we will probably never know about. He also said that throughout his early 20s, he sexually molested several young boys, but he cannot recall the exact number of boys that he sexually molested, which in my opinion means that he was doing it to so many people that he lost count. There's no way, like, if you sexually molest like 5 people, I'm pretty sure you can remember that you molested 5 people. But the fact that he said that he cannot recall how many it was, the number is probably astronomical, and that is disgusting as hell. What's even more disgusting is that he was actually charged with sexual molestation of a minor, but unfortunately, his record ended up being expunged. I do not know why. I do not know how, but Port Arthur Police Department need their ass beat, because there's no way that this man should have been set free. In 1983, when he was 24 years old, he moved from Port Arthur, Texas to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and he became a karate instructor. And I mean, y'all know he grew up poor, so money was just not something that he was ever gonna have. So when he moved to the karate studio, well, I mean, when he moved to Baton Rouge and he became the karate instructor, he actually lived at the karate studio because, you know, he had no money, he had no family out there. He just, on a whim, as soon as that record got expunged, he just moved to another city. New city, same shit. While he was a karate instructor, he was actually well liked by many of his students. In particular, he grew very, very close with 10-year-old Jody Plauché and his older brother Mikey Plauché. He was closer with Jody than he was Mikey, and I'm assuming it's because Mikey was a little bit older and probably less impressionable. So he just kind of latched on to Jody more so. But all of his students liked him. He would take them on like karate field trips. Like they would go camping, they would go to the movies, they would go to the skating rink. Like they would just hang out because, you know, he didn't have any family. He didn't have Jeff. He didn't have any family there. He didn't have any friends there. He was new to the city. So he just kind of was cool with his students. Like his students were like his little best friends, which should have been a red flag for a lot of people, but this was the 80s, which it should have been more of a red flag for a lot of people because, again, this was the 80s. This was after like Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy. Like they just, oh my God, like this is just so upsetting because how did no one think that this could have been prevented? But girl, that's because I know the ending. I'm sorry. So let me not get off topic. He was able to become as close as he was with Mikey and Jody, and it was more so because their parents were separated. So he kind of just like stepped in and became somewhat of an authoritative figure. I don't want to call him a father figure because the two definitely had a father, but I would say an authoritative figure, like an older brother that they could trust. Like that's the kind of relationship that he had with both boys, and the parents didn't seem to mind it. The mom's name was June and the dad's name was Gary. They really didn't seem to mind the amount of time that he was spending with their children. They actually grew really close with him. They would invite him to like their house for family dinners, and they would invite him to like some of their family functions and everything, just to like kind of, you know, Southern hospitality, just to make him feel like he was welcome in the city, make him feel like he wasn't alone, you know, let him know that he has a friend indeed. And he particularly got kind of close with the dad, Gary. Gary would invite him to the house a lot just for no reason. Like he would just be like, hey, you know, you want to hang out with us? You want to come over? You know, stuff like that. So they ended up becoming close. In March of 1983, the students actually went on a karate camping trip with Jeff, and unfortunately during this camping trip, that would be the first time that Jody would be molested by Jeff. And not only was he molested by Jeff, but Jeff decided to like share his sleeping bag with him to make it even more sick. I'm not quite sure what Jeff told Jody to get him to like not say anything to anybody about what happened. I tried to check and see, like try to just get an idea of something that he may have told him, but Jody hasn't gone into detail, and it wasn't in any of the case files that I read. So I honestly don't know what he told him to get him to not say anything, but Jody didn't say anything. And because he didn't say anything, it just gradually got worse. He continued to molest him over the next few months. And the term that they like to use for this type of thing is actually called gradual seduction. So he would help Jody stretch, like during karate and stuff, and he would like place his hand on his private areas, and when Jody would get visibly uncomfortable and say something about it, Jeff would try to pass it off as an accident, as if he didn't mean to do it. And he'll be like, you know, come on, we're stretching, my hand slipped, like trying to gaslight him. So that was one thing. Another thing that he would do is, like, they would be in the car together. I don't know why, but they would be in the car together, and Jeff would like place his hand on Jody's thigh, and whenever Jody would notice and say something about it, again, Jeff would just kind of laugh it off and say, oh, I didn't realize my hand was right there, I'm sorry. And it was just so disgusting. So this continued over the next few months, and eventually it began to get worse, with the molestation turning into sexual assault. And Jody recalls that when the sexual assault started, it would continue almost every day, sometimes even twice a day. And again, I don't know what Jeff told Jody to get him to not say anything to his parents or even his brother about the entire situation, but he just didn't say anything, which is just so crazy to me. Like, he just never said nothing. He just let it continue. So in addition to just being a sick sexual predator, Jeff was also into a little fraud, but he was not good at it, because he ended up getting arrested for writing bad checks, and they took that ass to jail. Unfortunately, he was able to post bail, so he wasn't in there long. February 19th of 1984, he was actually due to go to court to face his check fraud charges, but Jeff had other plans. Instead of going to court like he should have, he went to the Plauché residence and he asked June if he could take Jody with him to just run some errands, go for a ride, you know, stuff like that. And because June was completely oblivious to everything that had been going on for the past year, she was just like, oh, okay, you know, that's fine. Just have him home by dinner. You know, the typical things that parents would say. So Jody gets into the car with Jeff, not knowing that he was not going to be coming back home that evening. Jeff's plan was to pass Jody off as his son, and they were going to travel from Baton Rouge, Louisiana to Anaheim, California. And when they got to Anaheim, he was going to take Jody to Disneyland. Terrible. So when they left Baton Rouge, they traveled to his hometown in Port Arthur, Texas, and they went to Jody's mom's house where he passed him off as his son. I don't know how they believed him, but they did. And also along the way, he dyed Jody's hair black so that he wouldn't be easily recognized, because by this time there were like news reportings and everything out, letting them know to be on the lookout for Jeff and Jody. And the description that they gave of Jody was like a young blonde haired 10-year-old. So quite naturally, the best thing to do is to dye his hair so that no one is looking for a black-haired 10-year-old. They continued traveling. Once they left Port Arthur, Texas, they traveled through New Mexico and Arizona. And along the way, Jeff would allow Jody to like regularly call his mom June, just to like let her know that, well, from what I understand, kind of to just let her know that he was still alive and that everything was fine. He was just on a trip. He was going to Disneyland with Jeff and that everything was okay. He still didn't disclose everything that was happening to him, because along the way they would check into several hotel rooms and Jody would be sexually assaulted frequently throughout the trip. So they finally reached Anaheim, California, as promised. And upon reaching Anaheim, God, this palette is garbage. Jesus Christ. Like, I keep trying to make this shit work. This is the worst palette I've ever purchased. And it has nothing to do with the story. So we just gonna get back on topic. They finally get to Anaheim. And he does take Jody to Disneyland. And on February 29th of 1984, Jody would make his final call to his mother. And during this call, the FBI was able to trace the call to a motel room in Anaheim. So they dispatched the Anaheim Police Department so that they can go and pick Mr. Jeff up and return Jody to his family. So on March 1st, 1984, Jody was reunited with his family. Jeff was arrested and charged with check fraud, molestation, rape, and he was being extradited back to Louisiana so that he could face charges of aggravated kidnapping. On March 16th, 1984, Jeff was extradited to Louisiana to face charges on aggravated kidnapping, and he was walking through the airport, Ryan Field Metropolitan Airport in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And as he was walking through the airport with the armed police officers, he was fatally shot by the hero of our story, Gary Plauché. Name sound familiar? Yeah, that's Jody's dad. Gary was he was said to be very helpless whenever he found out about everything that his son endured, because, you know, Jody was returned to his family on March 1st and Jeff wasn't extradited back to Louisiana until March 16th. So over that 2-week period, Jody had a chance to kind of tell his parents about everything that was going on. And when he told them about everything that was going on, of course, he disclosed the fact that this had been happening to him for a year at this point. So, Gary just said that he felt like he wasn't able to protect his own son and that made him feel away, which I'm pretty sure it would make any parent feel away. I cannot imagine how devastating it is to find out that someone that you allowed in your home, someone that you trusted with your children, would turn around and do something just so heinous to them. And the fact that it happened for as long as it did and he never knew anything, it just didn't sit well with him. So Gary was in a bar in Baton Rouge, and Gary was the type of person that had a lot of like connections around the city. And one of those connections that he had was actually a news anchor for WBRZ. And because WBRZ was going to be covering when Jeff got back to the airport and the crimes that he was being faced with at the bar, I don't know if it was done like intentionally. I don't know if they gave him the information on purpose. I'm not sure. But Gary got word that on March 16th, that is when Jeffrey Doucette would be coming to the airport. So he ended up going to the airport, and he stood by a payphone where he was speaking with one of his friends, and he waited for the plane with Jeff on it to land. And when the plane landed and they were walking him through the airport with all of the armed guards and police officers and everything, he allegedly told the person on the payphone, "Here he comes, I gotta go, you're about to hear a shot." He reached into his boot where he retrieved his .38 caliber revolver, and in one swift motion pointed the gun at Jeff and shot him in the head at point blank range. He was immediately tackled by the police officers and detained. And while he was being arrested for shooting him, he actually was really good friends with one of the police officers that was guarding him and getting him to booking to be charged. And all that he could say is, "Why, Gary? Why?" To which Gary responded, "If this had been your son, you would have done the same thing." Hey, he got a point. He got a point there. He got a point. So he was arrested, and I don't want to say unfortunately, because this is actually very, ooh, this is gonna sound bad, but this is actually very good. But Jeffrey was, he was fatally shot. So he did not survive this injury. He fell into a coma, and he passed away in the hospital the next day, handcuffed to the bed at the tender age of 25. He was charged with second-degree murder, and he pled no contest to manslaughter. So the defense argued that Gary was experiencing temporary insanity as a result of finding out everything that had happened to his son over the course of the 10 days that he was missing. And that defense actually worked. It worked to a degree, because they didn't want to, the prosecution argued that if they were to let Gary get away with whatever he did, that they could end up facing a lot of backlash due to the nature of the crime, because technically it is murder. They didn't want to like have it come back on them. They didn't want the public to think it's okay to murder somebody and claim temporary insanity. However, that argument did not work. The judge ended up determining that Gary was not a danger to anyone else, and that the only reason that he did so was because of what happened to his son. So Gary pled no contest to manslaughter, and he was given a 7-year suspended sentence, which basically means that he served no jail time. He was placed on probation for 5 years, and he had to do 300 hours of community service, which all of this was done by 1989. So as of 1989, he was a free man. The entire incident didn't really sit too well with Jody, even as the victim, because, you know, he actually held this against his father for a long time, because he said that although everything happened to him, he didn't feel as though Jeff deserved to die. He said that he was very angry with his father for a long time because of how he decided to handle everything. And he just said that his dad kind of took it too far, and that it was like a pride thing, which led to him committing the murder. And over time, it was just something that he had to accept on his own. He kind of had to go through like a lot of trauma therapy to help him to realize the nature of what actually happened to him, because he was so young when everything happened. He was 11 years old at the time, so he didn't quite understand the nature of everything. But over the years, he and his dad ended up becoming close again after he, you know, kind of realized that. He said that when you realize that someone is a bad person and things like this happen to them, over time it affects you less and less. Not the trauma that he suffered, but the fact that his dad killed his abuser. He said that like over time, when you realize how truly terrible a person was, what happens to them as a result affects you less and less. So he and his father ended up getting back onto good terms, and they were able to move past his dad murdering him. Gary actually did an interview in 2013 where they asked him, you know, about the incident, and Gary said that he feels no remorse for what he did. And if given the chance, he would change absolutely nothing. He would do it exactly the way that he did. And I get it. I completely understand. Unfortunately, Gary suffered a stroke in October of 2014. And he passed away in a nursing home 18 days before his 69th birthday. But a lot of people have still said that they completely understand what he did as a father. And a lot of people actually said that they probably, if given the same circumstances, they probably would have reacted in the same way. Nobody really saw anything wrong with what he did at all. And I agree. Sometimes you got to take matters into your own hands. I mean, honestly, what do you really think was going to happen to him as a result of it? It's like, seriously, think about it. I don't think that anything serious would have happened. I don't want to say anything serious, but facing jail time is one thing, but he would have eventually got out, and he probably could have just moved and did the exact same thing. So I completely understand where Gary was coming from, because that's his child, and you can't tell anyone how to react to a situation when their child is involved. So I completely get it. If I were a parent, would I have done the same thing? More than likely, yes, because that's someone that he trusted in his child's case. That's someone that he trusted with his child's life. Like, they were going on trips together. He would come by the house and just pick Jody up and take him on like joyrides and stuff. And now it's just like, I don't even know what was happening to my own child. Like, that is very insane to think that the one person that you thought you could trust your kid with would turn around and do something just so heinous to your child. So I completely understand, you know, everything that happened, and I don't blame him for doing what he did. So there's that. I completely stand with Gary. Jody did recover from his trauma, and he went on to publish his life story. Well, not his life story, but like the details of what happened. The name of the book is Why Gary Why, the Jody Plauché story. But the book was published in August of 2019, and to this day, he went on to like play sports. He was particularly good at football when he was in high school. He's an advocate for abuse victims, so he's still doing something good in his community given what happened to him. The shooting actually took place live on WBRZ, so there is like actual footage of the murder because they were not able to, you know, block everything out before the shooting happened. I'm not gonna post it, but I have seen the video. I personally don't think that it's graphic, but some people may. But there are like censored versions of the video that are on YouTube if you know, just want to see it but you don't want to see all the extra stuff. They actually kind of like blacked out the actual shooting and they just show like the aftermath of it. But I've seen a full video. I personally do not think that it's graphic. And that is the end of the story of Jody Plauché, Gary Plauché, and Jeff Doucet. So it had a happy ending. Jody did get like the treatment that he needed to be able to work past his trauma. He and his father did fix their relationship before he passed in 2014, and since then he's just been an activist and an advocate for trauma survivors or sexual abuse survivors. So he's still out there doing what he's doing. He did get married and he does have children of his own, and personally I feel like him having children of his own kind of helped him to understand why his father did what he did. So they were able to mend their differences and continue, you know, having their father-son relationship until his very unfortunate passing. And that's the end of the story. Let me know your thoughts below. Do you think that Gary should have served prison time for what he did? Do you feel like he should have been, you know, let off the way that he was let off because of what happened? Let me know your thoughts down below. If you agree with what happened, if you disagree with what happened, you know, we can have a little powwow down in the comments. But please be very respectful of other people's opinions. Whether they agree with you or not, just keep it cute. And I have a party to go to that I'm about to be late to, so let me go ahead and get up out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in my next video.